Why do upgrades matter? The big picture. Mitch, I know we're working on several upgrades for clients right now. Why why do we need to upgrade? Why do the clients want to upgrade?
I think one of the biggest reasons that we see upgrades is clients. I guess it doesn't even have to be clients. It's just production servers in general. They stay on one version because that's what works, but eventually that version reaches an end of life. It does not receive any new security patches. It There's the end of life and then there's the extended end of life. So once that extended end of life hits, there is absolutely no more security patches rolled out for that SQL Server, and that is when it becomes pretty imperative to roll to a new SQL Server version.
Yep. So, example, there's still a lot of people out there running SQL Server 2016. And although there's a lot of enhancements since then in 2017, 2019, 2022, and 2025, SQL Server 2016 is a pretty solid product. It really is. And however, it's coming to end of life where there is not going to be those patches like you talked about there. It's going to be higher security risk. And so people at this point, I think the actual end of life date on that, if I remember correctly, is somewhere in July. But people are looking at, well, how do I get off of 2016 now so I can get to something that's actually going to be supported going forward? So when people come to that, I mean, the big picture is you want to get to a place where you actually have security patches. So many times I've heard stories about ransomware, and if you haven't taken my free ransomware class, please check it out. But I've heard about ransomware getting in because people are running old versions of software, whether it's their database or their web server or whatever it may be, and ransomware gets in through some hole that's been known about for 15 years. There's a lot of other reasons too. For instance, like software vendors, you might be running some off-the-shelf product where they tell you, we only support this version, and suddenly 2016 was the only version that they ever supported, and now they're telling you have to be on 2022 or 2025. So there's a lot of reasons, good reasons to do this. A lot of the common things are also like hardware refresh. I mean, oftentimes people will be running in an environment where the hardware that their SQL server is running on is completely outdated. And I mean, we went through this with a client, gosh, when was it? It was a three-step move where they were running on such old hardware that jumping to just the modern equivalent of what they had purchased was just so much faster. I mean, it was like night and day performance. So hardware refreshes are important. Also, moving to the cloud or to Azure. I mean, that's another reason people upgrade. If you're stuck on like SQL Server 2012 on-prem right now and you're trying to move to Azure, I don't know if Microsoft Azure is even going to give you an option for SQL Server 2012. Hopefully they don't. So then the other thing is a lot of times people look at it as performance improvements too. Like I mentioned, you're going to go to newer hardware, faster hardware, get newer options like 2019 and 2022 and 2025 have read committed snapshot isolation level. I mean, it's been there on older versions of SQL Server, but it's really matured on those versions to the point that you can get a pretty big performance boost just by going to SQL Server 2022, for instance, and turning on RCSI. Any other common triggers you can think of there, Mitch?
I think in the past couple of years, one of the biggest ones we've seen is that move to Azure or any cloud-based solution. A lot of people are moving away from the hard racks and they're moving to Azure and doing more of a group managed service there where they can get more options than just doing an in-house hard rack. But that kind of breaks away from the main conversation of, is it going to be an in-place upgrade or is it going to be a spin up a new server and jump everything over to that new one. So it's kind of 50-50 on what we're seeing there.
So, a couple of quick stories on this, the upgrades that I've been part of or I've seen where things have been good and where, well, usually they're good because we do this a lot and we know how to make it good even if something goes bad. But we did a migration, gosh, this one must have been 8 or 9 years ago. And I know 8 or 9 years ago doesn't sound that long to some people, but the speed of VPNs and all that has changed a lot in that time as well. But 8 or 9 years ago, we did an upgrade. It was close to a one terabyte database. And not only were we upgrading it from the version of SQL Server, we were also moving it to a different site, to a different co-location facility. So we had to make the move across a VPN connection at that point. And so that was an upgrade. We had to do it not as an in-place upgrade, but as a new build out, and we moved everything over there. And the thing we ran into was that to move that amount of data over the VPN that was in place at that point in time, or even today's VPN, to move a terabyte takes a while. It would have taken, like, I don't know, at that point in time, it was something like 18 hours of downtime in order to be able to take the databases offline, move them over, and then bring the server back on. But what we were able to do was to do a migration using a modified version like log shipping in order to be able to do a full restore and then to replay the logs to get it up to date. And in the end, we ended up doing the final switchover with about 5 to 6 minutes of downtime in order to be able to move that whole database. Now, we kind of cheated because we moved the whole database ahead of time and then just got it caught up with differentials and logs, but the outcome was the same because we got it moved, we got it switched over with very little downtime, and it was a big success. Other times I've seen it go wrong is when you're doing an in-place upgrade and people don't have a good rollback mechanism. And when that happens, if something goes wrong, you're in a position where you've got a dead server until you figure out how to make it work. And I've been on one or two of those that where somebody started the upgrade, and then once it went wrong, they called me to get involved to figure out how to fix it. And then 8 or 10 hours later, we had it fixed by uninstalling and reinstalling the original version of SQL Server and restoring everything. That's not the way to go. So thanks for watching. I'm Steve, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like it, please click the thumbs up icon. And if you want to subscribe, click subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon to get notified when we have new videos. All right, have a great day.